Welcome to the GDB BoF. Once again, another year. So this year, I did something different, which is I came in with a potential list of discussion points, but it's really just an icebreaker. The intent is to, discuss whatever you all want to discuss and hear about, topics you want to raise. So I open, are there topics to discuss? Maxim? Oh yeah, I need to give you the... Your email? I saw it, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, that's it.
That's the bigger problem for C++ 20 is GCC.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about DCO, please.
All right, it's on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's the third of the first.
It's under the recurring topics. I already knew it was coming.
Please let's accept DCO. Please.
Yeah, I'm. You wanna say?
Developer Certificate of Origin. It's a one line in a commit log that really simplifies contribution.
For people who do not have copyright assignment. People who want to open contribute something, they should just get copyright assignment. It's much easier for them. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I also think copyright assignment makes things much easier. But maybe not if you are not working for a company. So maybe we could do some kind of compromise that if somebody does work for a company, then they get a company disclaimer on file, and otherwise, if they know their company cannot make any claim on their work, they can just use DCO. Would that be a...
Are you suggesting that sounds like a copyright record document, like what the FSF already tracks? Are you suggesting we maintain something like that?
Well, just the FSF. But I think the only thing that is really important is if the work can be attributed to a company, that it's clear that the company has signed a company disclaimer.
Okay, so a few people have their hands raised, but maybe I can give us some status update on what's happened in this. There's been ongoing discussions behind the scenes as well as on the mailing list. There's been chat between the maintainers, and some would like to move to this model for GDB as well. And also because the rest of the GNU toolchain has moved in this direction, so it's kind of like weird why GDB is not accepting this when BinUtils is, and it's the same repo and even shared code. So in a way, we already carry DCO licensed code under a BFD, so GDB is already carrying that by side effect.
So pretty much the thing is, if well, for GCC at least, right? Which is
Microphone, please. Microphone. It is microphone. Hold it to your face, please.
oh, right. I need to speak in it. Okay. At least in GCC, if you are in the maintainers file, you have a copyright assignment. Period. That's the whole thing. So if you are not in the maintainers file, we cannot accept contributions from anyone. Well, except when they do put the DCO in there.
But there's also a section for people who are contributing under DCO, right? It's the same file.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
Want to continue, or maybe David or Carlos?
Oh, sorry, David here. You had your hand first. Okay. So I just wanted to answer the question of what is DCO, because you said licensing, but the truth is that we are always accepting the contributions under the license that the project has, right? That doesn't change. DCO doesn't change that. That license is what it is. But what DCO does do is follow what's called an inbound equals outbound licensing model. And that person is attesting that I have the right to contribute that code under that license, right? So they are providing that attestation. Now, a lot of people talk about risks, right? Because there's a variety of kinds of risks that copyright assignment or DCO mitigate against. But really, it's up to the projects to determine what their risk profile is. But in my opinion, like with glibc, it has been very beneficial from a project perspective. And I, as a GNU project maintainer for the project, I see us being on LGPL v2.1 for a long time, forever, basically. And so while if you had copyright assignment, it makes some things easier, like you don't have to go find every person to relicense something. But at the same time, it makes contributions and onboarding and certain processes so much harder. And so, I encourage GDB to go with DCO. If you have questions, as a glibc maintainer, I am so happy to answer questions about how has the process gone? What have we done? How has it been? How's it been beneficial? How do we manage that? And I think that what I would say at a high level is the rest of the GNU toolchain community is here to support GDB if you have questions about why we changed the other projects to it, the benefits we've seen, and how that process works.
All right. Thank you. David?
Yeah, and following up again, Pedro, thanks for mentioning that the other components, as also Carlos said, other projects in the GNU toolchain projects have adopted the DCO. It's been very effective there. It's already being used, as you said, in bin utils there, and the other projects are utilizing DCO without any additional stipulations, without any other compromise, without any other pieces. It's been very effective, and I would hope that GDB would not discriminate against any other contributors to the project, both to allow DCO and to not impose any other differentiation of we got this class of user versus that activity, you're part of a company or not part of it, that we should be open in this community as all of the other GNU toolchain projects to accept on the same basis, the same facts, the same infrastructure, the same process that we've developed, which has been effective. It hasn't caused any other problems. As Carlos was saying, it's encouraged a great number of additional contributions, and I believe that the data that Jeremy was showing a few days ago actually showed increases in corporate contributions and individual contributions when DCO was adopted. And so I would, again, strongly, and as Carlos was saying, the other members, other projects in GNU toolchain would support it, hope that the GDB project would accept it, and hope that it would accept it without any other stipulations, without any other requirements, without saying, oh, if you're associated in this way, you must use this process or that. Let's be open and allow people to contribute and grow the community.
Thank you very much.
So, when you talk about risk, one thing that I see is that the risk moves to the individual contributor, and that's the problem with the DCO, at least for me, is that it makes me kind of disclaim my employers, and it's not clear to me if I can without having a what?
it does not disclaim anything. All you're certifying is that this is the original patch. I am the original.
Okay, okay. So what isn't clear is how I, as a DCO signer, get my company's disclaimer. I work for them and I'm signing something.
There's no disclaimer involved over there. You just need an awareness that you are allowed to contribute that code to the project. So it's instead of signing a copyright assignment through your employer, you're basically, you can probably think of it if you like a mental model. You sign on a per commit basis that you're allowed to post this patch. It's really just that.
Hello. Probably most people don't know me. I'm Krzysztof Siewicz. I work for the FSF for the last 2 years as their licensing and compliance manager. So maybe I think okay. So I think it's a very broad topic, and I'm having the licensing BoF tomorrow. We can also continue it there. I think Mark is right in saying that DCO does not disclaim the rights of the employer. So it's a statement made by the contributor. But from the you're right. But at the same time, it does not say anything about the rights of the employer. The employer might still have some claim to the code. And until the employer does not disclaim the rights, there is still the risk that the employer might come and.
But the
Microphone.
The FSF assignment.
Microphone.
It does because the FSF projects, FSF process includes the employer disclaimer, additionally to the copyright assignment. And there is also 2 things that the DCO does not solve, which is basically, well, since it does not transfer copyright, it does not allow you easily to enforce copyright, enforce the GPL if there is a breach. But I think we've actually started talking about it internally at the FSF, and what we are thinking about is to come up with something that would be both as flexible as the DCO, as you know, non-bureaucratic as possible as the DCO, and at the same time give all the benefits that the copyright assignment does. So, I mean, if there is a way to get copyright assignment and employer disclaimers in a very easy way, then we would opt for that, because we believe we need copyright assignments and employer disclaimers to be able to still generally, yes, work with GPL compliance, because if we don't have copyrights, it's not that easy. You know, sometimes it's not possible to enforce the GPL if someone breaches it. So I would like to include that compliance issue in the whole discussion here.
I feel like GPL compliance.
Question, Paul.
These are some very real concerns. I would like to note that the 6.15 Linux kernel, which is governed by DCO and has been for the better part of 20 years now, had 195 employers contributing. So different organizations. They include a number of 3-letter agencies, have included a number of 3-letter agencies over the years from a number of governments, all right? And the point about enforcement is well taken as well. Except that we have had successful enforcements on the Linux kernel. It's not that larger of a deal. You do have people that have large numbers of lines of code, all right? I don't have a particularly large number myself, and I'm not that excited about that particular type of activity. I've had enough of lawsuits with Cisco versus IBM. Thank you, I've done my time, all right? But all of these things have been done in the Linux kernel for a very long time with the DCO. So it might be, now I'm not familiar with exactly what your employer needs, but it might be useful to chat with other contributors from similar employers to see what they might have done to make that work.
Mike.
Yeah, so I believe, enforcement is still possible. I believe any enforcement that has been done so far was because there was a copyright holder who stepped in and contributed their time, resources, I don't know, found a lawyer pro bono or paid for the lawyer to do it. So we need to have the copyright holder to step in and do the enforcement. So if we do not collect copyrights, then for the compliance, we have to rely on someone who is active enough to run the whole case.
But you don't need to own the copyright of the whole project. For GDB, GCC, BNutils, FSF is going to still own the copyright for a big chunk of it, basically forever.
Yes.
So it will always be possible for the FSF to enforce. Because it would be different for a new project.
And because of that, it's important that a lot of people have a copyright assignment.
Right.
Guys, nobody can hear you on the recording.
Okay, yeah. But there's a mic here. Yeah.
Get closer. Stand closer.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
So there's another point about the copyright assignments that hasn't been covered, which is license upgrades. If we find a bug in the GPL and we have contributions under the DCO, I would urge the DCO to transfer to the FSF at least the power to upgrade the license.
So, yes, but you need all the owners to
change
agree.
That's right, but to change the base license, to make the decision to change the base license to fix bugs in the license, I understand you need to have that power to decide instead of having to consult with everyone. Not often at all.
But
Yeah, but when you want to do it, you are not able if you don't have copyrights.
But all these concerns, they also apply to GCC and to BNutils. It's just, GDB is just the laggard here. In my opinion, and don't quote me as like the GDB opinion, it's my personal opinion. If there's something that needs to be done in terms of new DCO wording that FSF would like more, because I know, I don't know if you're aware, but Richard Stallman wrote a blog post a few years ago saying that, I'm going to paraphrase probably very incorrectly, but something like, I kind of agree with the idea, but I just disagree with the wording of the DCO currently used in the Linux kernel and on. We would like to someday come up with a better DCO. And then I read that and I question, should GDB as a project be kind of held hostage until the FSF comes up with a new DCO that all the GDB maintainers would agree with? Or isn't this just a larger problem in the GNU toolchain ecosystem, and GDB should just follow what GCC is doing, and then if there is a problem with the DCO system, it should work together to fix for everyone. Why hold GDB hostage? You know, that's my position.
Paul has the mic.
Right, Paul.
So to address the gentleman's point here, we have had problems like that in the Linux kernel. You rewrite the code from the troublesome contributor. Problem solved.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
That's not how copyright works. And you remember that is influenced by the
I mean, I'll also say again, confirming what Pedro said, the train has left the station. GCC, BNutils, glibc have all adopted DCO, and that having this laggard of GDB is not really effective. It's inhibiting contributions to the project. But then additionally, in terms of different wordings of this, we all went through the point in time when, with the initial free Libre open source licenses, and every company wanted their own version, and they could all do it better, and the lawyers all wanted to clock up hours doing things differently, and everybody realized that having all of these different licenses really complicated everything. And everybody finally agreed, oh, well, actually, yeah, Apache and MIT, we got a couple of licenses, and let's just converge on that. So similarly, I respectfully suggest that maybe there could be changes, maybe there could be improvements, but everybody and a large number of projects, GCC and the Linux kernel and others, have adopted DCO. There's basic consensus amongst the corporations, the lawyers, of that DCO is something that they accept and that their employees can utilize, and that inventing yet another variation for some tweak, if this isn't, and nobody's found any fundamental problems in this DCO, that doing something that's already accepted by these corporations will again simplify the onboarding, simplify the attracting more developers, as opposed to gratuitous differences, which there may be reasons for, but without any fundamental problem, to make it simple and not have lawyers needing to look at yet another way of supporting this way of delivering this. That's my suggestion.
I also wanted to bring up the other side of it. We already said a couple times in this talk something to the tune of, that's not how copyright works, that's not how this works, that's not how that works. So can we imagine someone who's not hired by a company who wants to contribute to GDB and then suddenly has to sign a contract in a language that's possibly not their native language, having to understand the legal ramifications of what they're doing in a part of law that is complicated by law standards? So like...
It's not a contract. It isn't.
Well, okay, so this is just another... Yeah, you just proved my point. Yet another reason why it's complicated and confusing. So, like, I think we just need something that is understood and accepted well enough, and that has proven to not be viable in the real world already.
So, how was the process for glibc GCC to decide, let's start using the DCO? You just decided as a project, right? Or was there any consultancy with someone?
Just before you go to Carlos, I've actually a question for you. Is how do you do to track the copyright of the contribution done under DCO? Does every file that has contribution from someone under DCO has the copyright data that says copyright FSF, copyright X, copyright Y, copyright Z, and so on?
GNU toolchain authors. That's what he is. It's just one. GNU toolchain authors.
For glibc.
No, GNU toolchain authors for all.
Yeah, but GCC does not update all the time.
So the DCO that we, GCC at least, have is not identical to the DCO the kernel uses. It's not identical already.
Is it identical to the Binutils glibc one?
Binutils in GCC are pretty much the same as far as I know. Yeah, yeah. But the wording is the wording is different.
You're not.
It's the same DCO.
It's the same DCO.
Unmodified.
Really?
Really?
Yes. 100%.
Well, the part
Rewind.
there is in the maintainers file, the verbiage is different, so the legal meaning is different. That's how law works. Yeah.
GCC, glibc, and binutils are all using the standard DCO. There is no change. There should be no change. If there's a change, it's a mistake, and we can correct it by updating it.
It all refers to the website where the DCO
Wow.
was.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. But the part in maintainers where you use the DCO, that has meaning.
Everything references the website for DCO, which is maintained as the official verbiage, and that's what all of DCO references, or should reference.
That's part where we, in the maintainers file.
So I just wanted to answer, there was a question asked by Lancelot, and there's a question asked by Pedro. But then I'll hand the mic to Christoph. Do you want the mic after? Was there anyone else that had their hand up that wanted the mic after? I just want to make sure that we fairly walk around. Okay. So the Lancelot, what was your question again? It was yeah. Who is the yeah? So the answer to that question is yeah. The answer to that question is that from a project perspective, we simply write the GNU toolchain authors. That is not a copyright statement. That is simply a statement that there are potentially other copyright holders on the file, and you do it because if you write nothing, then someone could claim, oh, I didn't know, right? And I didn't know is a valid defense, and so you add copyright GNU toolchain authors. You would then need to go back and look at your history of the modifications and identify who those people were. To claim copyright, you don't have to list the people's names if you don't want to. But if the person asks for it, you should, right? So there are, like someone could say, I want my name listed, in which case you would have to list it, right? Or you can have that conversation with that individual. But if the individual is okay with it, they know that they have copyright because they contributed it, then you just add GNU toolchain authors, and that indicates that the file has copyright by someone else. That's how we track it. So if you were to look at glibc, you look across all the files, if there's a file that has that, that indicates it. Now, cost of compliance. As compliance approaches 100%, cost approaches infinity, right? Like a standard project management maxim in this case. So I expect that A, in projects that did have copyright statements, the statements were inaccurate to begin with because nobody updates them, right? And so I expect that also these are inaccurate, but we can work to improve that accuracy to some degree. Now, Pedro asked a question, which was, how did we make the decision? Well, I am a GNU project maintainer, so that is a decision that we raised, and we said we'll start using DCO. Alex, did you object at the time for DCO? Okay. So the thing is that we are in projects with multiple leads who have been delegated to in order to be responsible for the projects and shepherd them, moving them forward, growing the contribution base, contributing to a body of free software that is what we are excited to contribute to and to build. And one of the difficulties is that that base is decreasing over time. And so there are lots of other projects that people can contribute to. And we are balancing that risk, which is, I wish to be inclusive of more people in the open source software community and include them in our projects to be able to contribute. And to do that, DCO has been one of the best mechanisms we can use. Yes, it does create other risks, right? But we're balancing those risks against, our projects losing contributors, and we want to improve that. And I think it's really beneficial for the projects to look at those risks and try to balance them in a different way that supports more contributions from external authors. And as Sid said, it's like, how often do you have to relicense? What if you just rewrite the code? What if you threw away some of that code and redid it? Yeah.
Sorry to inject myself, but I wanted to just follow up on what Carlos was saying and answer your question. How did we decide, as Carlos was saying, we as a project decided, and we as the delegated maintainers and the people to whom we delegate the authority to accept patches accepted a patch with a DCO, period, end of story. We as the people who were, that's how it was decided. As we said, this is what we're going to assume, and we delegated to the people who can accept patches that the maintainers, which we were and were the global maintainers in GCC and glibc, this is now accepted. They accepted a patch. That was how it was deployed, is that those people, somebody with that authority accepted a patch with DCO.
Thank you. That's very clear.
Sorry, Christoph, I didn't go to you next. My apologies.
I just want to ask a question. Do I understand correctly that the reason why you argue for DCO is that because it's less bureaucratic and easy for people to contribute? So you're asking for making it more easy?
No, it's not just. Do I have to tell you my real legal name when I sign a copyright assignment?
Probably yes.
There's a DEI issue there. That's hard to solve. Some people don't want to tell the FSF their real legal name.
Do you want
They
to
don't want
speak
to
up
have it on
your
the record
experience?
anywhere,
Do you want to talk about your experience?
right?
No, because
I'm just saying that is an aspect of
The
that
DCO.
process,
Or the assignment
right?
assignment
for GDB?
for GCC. And when I say a long time ago, it's like 2003.
Oh, but I thought your company did not.
Oh, yes.
That case.
Yeah. So I have a separate, case where, where my company, it's not that they won't sign, a copyright assignment. They just think it's too cumbersome also for the same reason as, why regular people think it's cumbersome. Because you get lawyers involved and that takes too long. And, when I joined Qualcomm, I had to wait for a lawyer to say DCO was even fine. So, and then he didn't want to push it up, he didn't want to go through the copyright assignment because he already knew that would take, months and stuff. So, yeah. So there's that too. And yes, I did get, as I said, you still go through lawyers and stuff internally, but then they don't have to go talk to the FSF and everything. And that takes, the back and forth because before I know that, other companies have changed the copyright assignment when they get it back from the FSF, and then the FSF has to go back and forth and everything too.
I've been reported, people talk to me telling me that their companies contribute to GCC nowadays, but not to GDB, because they can contribute to GCC under the DCO. So GDB is being blocked from those contributions nowadays. And they are considering going to these other debugger that exists out there because of this. And it's sad for me to hear this.
Paul, I have a question for you.
One of the really interesting things that happens with DCO is because you can roll up the attestations, it enables, I believe, models by which downstreams can have and host their own repo, accept contributions, aggregate them, and then send them upstream. So for example, if Red Hat had a downstream GDB like CentOS stream like we have when we accept MRs, if we accept all the MRs via signed off by, we would aggregate them up. And instead of telling all the contributors to our CentOS stream GDB version, I'm sorry, but you're gonna also have to go and upstream and do all these other things, yada, yada, yada. One of our maintainers should just go upstream and say, hey, I got a bulk of really good contributions from our downstream repo. We were working with a bunch of vendors. They all did signed off by DCO. Can I roll these up to you? And then Pedro would review them and go, oh, these look fantastic. Where'd these guys come from? And I'm like, well, we got a good team and they put them all together. How does that work in the kernel where you roll up the contributions?
That's exactly the point that I had last year, and beside that,
Yeah.
What I'm going to do, and I'm going to have our microphone carrier hold the microphone a little bit so I can type with both hands, and I'm going to just pick the DCO up and read it. I think that's going to be most effective. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So VI, documentation with a capital D, add process, submitting patches.rst. And if we look for developer, if I can spell it right, maybe, Developer Certificate of Origin, which is what DCO stands for. By making a contribution to this project, I certify that A, the contribution was created in whole or in part by me, and I have the right to submit it under the open source license indicated in the file, which goes to what several people were saying earlier. B, the contribution is based on previous work that, to the best of my knowledge, is covered under appropriate open source license, and I have the right under that license to submit that work with modifications, whether created in whole or part by me, under the same open source license, unless I'm permitted to submit under another license, so indicated in the file. Now that covers what Carlos was asking. So I have, there's a couple of Git repos I'm associated with that replicate the Linux kernel, and we routinely accept, signed off by is our indication of DCO acceptance. We accept them, and I'm in the process of redoing some of them so I can get them for not this coming merge window, but the one after sometime later this year. And that clause is what enables that. And then another one, which is a special case of what you said, is C. The contribution was provided directly to me by some other person who certified either A, B, or C recursively. And then finally, and this is kind of a separate thing, I'll read it anyway for completeness. I understand and agree that this project and the contribution are public, and the record of this contribution, including all personal information I submit with it, in other words, what I submit, not what I don't. Don't have to submit if I don't want to Carlos's early point to your question there. Including my sign-off, is maintained indefinitely and may be redistributed consistent with this project or the open source licenses involved. Okay, so to go even further than Carlos did, if somebody else decided they wanted to make a, I don't know, Zunile kernel, all right? GNU being the old thing, we'll do Zunile for backwards Linux. And they wanted to release it under GPL 2.1. They could take my RC implementation and just drop it in. The license permits them to do that. So it recursively, not just through other copies of this project, but any other project that has a compatible license. Is that what you're looking for, Carlos?
Yes, yeah. The rolling up of the contributions works.
Mike, Carlos.
Yeah. It does answer my question that the roll-up of the contributions works, and it facilitates models that didn't previously exist in many ways in the past, where we had like centralized repos. And I think it even facilitates a broader growth of the community in teams, in other repos that are working on sub-ideas, experiments and things, and being capable of rolling up those experiments.
So
you're going to start accepting DCO contributions now? You can better.
it's not up to me completely.
It is up to you.
No, not me personally. I mean,
Well,
there's a group of people.
That's the question I want to get to, actually. It is still not clear to me how the decision needs to be made. And in the case of where the decision was already made, I want to ask, there were a number of people responsible for the decision. Was the decision unanimous? Was there a vote? What was the process exactly in those terms used to get to yes, so to speak?
So I think this is something that we, the GDB maintainers, need to discuss.
The FSF appointed maintainers or all maintainers? Yeah. Do I have a vote? I don't even know. Right, so I don't have a vote.
So the FSF maintainers, I would say, have the word, which can be to delegate to the global maintainers, and we can discuss.
Okay, and who decides whether there will be a vote and when?
We have to decide, we the GDB maintainers.
Yeah, so sorry, I'll talk to you. GDB is a project, the maintainers have to decide to accept this, to do this, what you call it, process. Yeah.
Sorry. Again, as I said before, we in the GCC steering committee polled amongst ourselves, amongst the steering committee, and agreed that this was the direction to go in, and therefore delegated, specified, announced that this was going to be accepted, and the maintainers to which we have delegated our authority as the official GNU project maintainers of GCC, that this was now to be allowed to be accepted. glibc, I will let Carlos say exactly how, but it's basically, we polled amongst them and we agreed that this was the, agreed through our process that this was the way forward. We won't get into the details of votes or arguments or horse trading. That this was how, as a project, we decided that this was worthy to announce, and then I, for better or worse, announced that for the project.
So my opinion is the FSF GDB maintainers need to decide what to do, and my proposal would be to delegate that decision to the set of global maintainers, of which you are a part, and then we would decide. And the form of decision would also be discussed. Can be consensus, can be majority, something. We will need to discuss that and decide that.
And do you feel comfortable proposing that?
I do.
When?
Soon. Or
maybe that's
and,
this stuff. Do we have any other topics?
Yeah, but objections. I'd like to hear them because take them to the other people. It's not just me. I was sharing my opinion. If there are counter arguments, I would love to hear them. Alex.
So I took to heart the argument that people have to look into a document in a foreign language and understand that in order to before they can make their contribution. I see the same argument applies to the DCO. You have to understand that before, and you have to understand the legal implications of that before your code is contributed in a way that it can legally be used. And what we're getting now is a state of risk in which we're accepting contributions that we don't know that we can actually use because we're not sure that the people who are contributing them actually understand that they have the right to contribute them in the first place. This seems a very risky proposition to me.
All right. I would say that, kind of repeating what I said earlier, this seems like a problem that might exist, and that is not specific to GDB.
Yeah.
And we can think of ways to address that as a toolchain community.
So another point of that is that the point you made are very good, but they apply with just as much force to the copyright assignment as they do to DCO. I would argue DCO, maybe you guys, I haven't seen your copyright assignments recently. Okay, it's been years, decades almost. But the DCO, in my opinion, is much simpler than any copyright assignment document I've ever seen. So I expect the DCO to be, your barrier is very real no matter what you do. But I believe that the understanding is going to be much easier with the DCO because it's simpler, fewer words, and also has been used in practice very heavily in a great many places.
Isn't the copyright assignment process, I believe there are translations,
Yeah.
but then they always say that the English version is the one that has standing.
Yeah.
So the other ones are just guidelines. So we could have something like that for the DCO, as well. David, here.
I couldn't have said it better than Paul, which is DCO gets used in so many other projects today that the understanding begins to become industry broad and people begin to understand what that means. And not only that, the lawyers begin to understand what that means, companies begin to understand, and to some degree, that lowers our barrier to FOSS projects being accepted at companies, and we can build more FOSS software and get more support for that. And yes, there are risks, right? But I think like the contributions and the people and building that community and enabling all those additional end users in my opinion, outweighs the risks. So I've decided to accept DCO, and in glibc we accept DCO, and we also use signed off by, we also use reviewed by and other things, but that is where we are today. So Pedro, I think that it is a crucial question about how you make that decision, and I leave it up to you, but I want to remind you again that we're here to support you. If your decision-making process, you'd like more input, either data or people to come talk to those that need to make a decision, we're here, right? So don't forget about the rest of the projects that are there developing a very close put together tool chain in terms of interoperability, but we're there as well to like support the process if you have questions and you want to ask those questions of the other maintainers that have worked through this process. And I also think it would be a good idea to even like reach out to the Linux kernel community or other projects using DCO us outside from us if you want a different perspective. But I think the perspective you'll find will be uniformly that it was a process that was designed intentionally with an intent for inbound equals outbound licensing with a very specific lightweight model in mind, and that we have to make sure it works. And it's been used in other projects effectively.
Okay. Yeah, so I really get the lowering the barriers argument. I think we should really work towards that. And I just think that the DCO wasn't designed, it was designed for making it clear that the project can accept the code, but it clearly wasn't designed to make compliance easier or even possible for the people who accept the code, because of this situation that you really need to have copyright to be able to effectively enforce copyright. And compliance is already hard. It's not easy to work with violators, and there is a really huge number of violators around. So no, I just want to say that if you use the DCO as it is now, you may be lowering the barrier, but you're also inviting a risk of more and more violations being, going unchecked. So.
Yeah. So you're making that comment to the whole tool chain, right? It's not specific to GDB, right? Yeah.
I want to get around to, I think Pedro is your name?
Pedro, yeah.
Same name, different language. All right. We have 4 different translations in the Linux kernel documentation directory of the DCO.
You said 3? No.
Well, do you count traditional and modern Mandarin as 2 different ones? Traditional simplified Chinese, there's Italian and Spanish. So we got, that's a small fraction of the total number of languages, but it's a start.
It's a start, yeah. Thank you for that. All right. Does anyone want to talk about other topics? 30 seconds? 20 seconds? 10 seconds?
So say 20.
Well, so
the C++20, the biggest issue is actually on the GCC side, not on the GDB side, because GCC basically says C++20 right now is experimental. And is that going to change for 16? I don't know.
All right.
So and then then it's like, okay, are you guys going to require GCC 16 as the minimum?
No.
Yeah.
So we have a policy.
So,
we have a policy. We have a policy is that there's.
Oh no, he has one.
Yeah, but he's telling what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Either way. Oh.
Or you can say it if you want.
So yeah, there is a policy somewhere in our documentation that we might only consider bumping the C++ version after 3 or 5 years, 3 years after the main compiler. Like, I don't really remember how many versions of the compiler have been available with support. Right. Pretty much, we have a rule to make sure that we have a broad support among all the compiler we can care about before we bump anything. So if C++20 is not stable, that means the base date, we've not reached it yet. So maybe in 3 years we can have this discussion.
So, but what's missing is ABI stability, right?
is ABI.
Which is something that we don't.
ABI stability is part of it, but I don't know the other part. So I don't know the exact details of why it's considered experimental. I just was raising it as the point of that's what's currently on the website, that's currently pushed recently because somebody else on the GCC mailing list asked about it to change it. And it was like, no, it needs, not from me. I didn't push back of saying it needs to stay. I stayed out of that. But there was a discussion within the last 3 weeks about it turning over, and they said not yet.
When we switched to C++ 11, the base compiler was set to GCC 4.8, which does not have complete C++ 11 support. And we were fine with that because we don't have an ABI surface that we need to keep backwards compatibility.
So the main thing left for C++ 20, I think, is modules is the big thing. And if you guys are not going to, other than that, I don't know the exact details of what's left, but that's the big thing.
We need John and Jason. See this? Yeah. Do we have time? Coffee break?
Coffee break.
So I was going to say Jason as well, but C++ modules is more or less the big thing. But if stability is not your focus, then I guess you could switch to C++ 20. But we do have, I think we have a goal of trying to do this in GCC 16, if that helps.
Can you speak up?
We have a goal to try and do this for GCC 16, if that helps, but it's not a guarantee.
Right.
It becomes stable.
The ABI
the change is stable.
Right. No. Oh.
So, location descriptors on the stack.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is your idea to the experimental support, is that for what is produced now or what will be standardized?
Will be standardized.
Okay, but then we don't have any producers for that yet.
Right.
Isn't that the problem?
Well, it's a chicken and egg thing, right?
Right, okay, so as consumers, we first implemented it and hope somebody produced it.
So there's an implementation of the precursor variant of the locations on the stack proposal that's on the LLVM website. You might have seen it, which is emitted by the AMD GPU compiler, which is very, very similar to what the proposal that's on the committee queue now. And basically 99% of the changes are compatible between that and the last version of the proposal. And we would like to upstream that support for that, that 99% of the code, because it's going to involve a lot of refactoring of the GDB expression evaluator. And as soon as we have that upstream done in a way that keeps dwarf 5 backwards compatibility, having that upstream would potentially help us find problems early, even with the spec itself. And we would like to do that as an experimental thing, because we're not supposed to say we support dwarf 6 before dwarf 6 is out, right? But that would be helpful. And then we can also adjust the compiler, maybe in a separate branch, to emit the proposal as well. And the question is the community open, the GDB community open to accepting code like that, which reworks the expression evaluator? It's a very invasive change in that area of the code before dwarf 6 is out. And someone shook his head here. Happens to be the person who wrote the code, but. Yeah. So, I don't know if anyone has an opinion on that.
Coffee.
Right. Thank you all.